Good morning, everybody. Before we go to questions, we'll start here in just a second with a couple of prepared comments. Obviously, this is a sad day and the end of a milestone, but it's also a chance to acknowledge and celebrate Doug Wilson's incredible legacy. That legacy is probably most obvious on the ice. A period of almost 19 years of sustained success. Many of you know the amazing statistics from the third most regular season wins to the second most playoff series wins. I won't try to go through all of them. They're just too numerous to repeat, but that is clearly the most successful run in our franchise history and the envy of many other franchises as well. But his impact goes beyond just the ice. His impact impacts all of us in the organization, from the class act he was to how he treated everybody else, to the culture that he built into this organization, to how active he was into the San Jose community. His fingerprints are all over Shark Sports and Entertainment, and we're appreciative and really honored by all that he did. When the time is right, it's a little bit early to talk about the future, but assuming Doug becomes open to it in the future and the time is right, we'd be happy to have a conversation about him coming back and helping the organization in some way, but that's a conversation for another day. Also, obviously, as of today, we're formalizing Joe Will's role as interim general manager. Thank you, Joe, for everything you've done over the last couple of months. The organization's been in fantastic hands, and it's been some difficult challenges over the last couple of months, and you've really come through. Essentially, we're formalizing what's been the de facto case for the last 5 or 6 months as well. So thank you, Joe, and look forward for all the things that you'll do over the next period as well. So you also saw in the release, between Hasso, Joe, and myself, we're starting immediately a search for the next general manager of the franchise. At this point, that search is for external candidates. We don't have a defined timeline, and that is we care more about the person than exactly what it happens. If it works out and takes a small number of months, that's great. If it takes a bit longer than that, we'll wait for the right person, as opposed to say that person has to show up at a particular time. Whoever that GM is will build on the incredible legacy that Doug has built over the last 19 years. Clearly, we want to get back to repeatable playoff hockey. That's the goal of this franchise. That's what we always want to do. You've seen over this season, we have some world-class players and some incredible talent in this organization. But openly, we do need a few more pieces, which will be part of both Joe's job and the GM as well. And so I'd like to end sort of where I started, which is we thank Doug for his incredible mark on this organization, both on the ice and off the ice. Really, it's been second to none. And I view him as a close friend, as a class act, and an amazing hockey executive. And sad day, but glad to be able to celebrate it as well. Joe?
Thanks, Jonathan. And, I wanted to start with a few remarks as well. It's really, it's an emotional, it's a reflective day. I've known Doug for over 30 years, back to when he was a player, and 19 years as being his number 2 here in San Jose. And I'm extremely grateful to everything that he's put in place here for me personally, but more importantly for the organization. I want to touch about 3 things that Doug has put into place for the organization that have been really notable to me. And the first is the resiliency that he's had over the past 19 years that this group has had. When he came in 2003, came off of missing the playoffs that year. And in the first year, we went straight to conference finals against Calgary. Another piece of resiliency was after missing the playoffs in 14, after many years, or in 15, I'm sorry, we came back and went to the Stanley Cup Finals the next year in 16, and culminated by in 18-19, the run against Vegas and then following that up against Colorado. So a lot of this group has been through resiliency together, and Doug put that together through the culture that he has in place and the competitive players and atmosphere that he's created. Secondly, the expectation of winning that we have here. In his 19 years, it's a remarkable feat. We've been through 30 playoff rounds. You look at all the teams out there that after 10 years, they're playing in one round, and how big of a deal that is. We've been in 30 over 19 years. And that's part of what Doug has put together and part of the culture here, and something that has been instilled in this group, and we want to take and move forward. And lastly is, and this is kind of on a personal note, as far as talking about Doug, is the culture he's created here of, not only a competitive culture, but a human culture, a culture of balance with family, health, and hockey. And ironically, right now, that's the forefront of his life with just taking care of his health. I can tell you, after talking with him, he's making progress. And you know what? He will be back in the National Hockey League, but it'll be on his schedule just after he gets fully healthy. Doug is looking forward to that, and that is going to happen. From me personally, I just want to thank him as being my boss for all these years. He's been very empowering of people. Doug's philosophy is just give people the tools to succeed. So I just personally want to thank him for that. I've been able to grow in my career based on him doing that, and the relationships he has with the players and the staff, and many of you personally, many fans here, is second to none. And just again, it's a day to reflect. It's a day to thank Doug with that. I do also want to share that I know for a fact, we're going to be in great hands, moving forward. This is an opportunity as well. It's an opportunity within this. The organization has already put it in place that, our foot's on the gas here. Our intention is to win. We're a competitive team. We have the guys in the room to do it, and we're pushing forward, not to take any steps back or say it's a whatever year plan or whatever on here. No, it's to go and win, and that's what we intend on doing. And that's with the candidates that come forward is we will look at them based on that, how they come into the organization. And they're going to have a vision. They're going to have a lot of great things to offer within there, but it's moving forward with this philosophy to win hockey games, get to the playoffs, and take this franchise to the next level. So just want to again thank Doug and thank the organization.
So with that, we'll open it up for questions.
Process of whether that's step down. Steps they go.
Yeah. So, since Doug's been out, there's always that question of when will he be ready to come back? But it was always from the when will he be ready, not if. And as you heard Joe said, Doug has definitely improved over the last couple of months, but he took the decision that he needs to concentrate on his health full time. And so it's really only in the last couple of days, this is late breaking more than anything else, that's become clear that it's his decision to step down.
Doing better. I guess how we should describe that. Say like in what ways?
I think that's Doug's story to tell more than anything else. And he's asked for privacy as much as possible during this process. But I think what he'd say is he's improved, but not yet where he'd like to be.
Speaking for the future of the organization, the one to take steps back, is that going to be important for the next GM that next GM shares that philosophy?
Yeah, I think I believe, and Jonathan can share as well, is that the GM's going to have a lot of leeway to move forward with their vision. Having said that, is the organization's vision that's been put in place is that we have a number of quality players here, and we have and they've done it. They've done it by the playoff rounds that we've been in, and what we're trying to do, as you've seen, is really just add to that group as we can through the draft, through developing. This was a year that I think we set the franchise record for number of rookies played, number of rookie games. We're up there as far as in NHL lists and things like that for what we did this year. So what we're trying to do is trying to advance, keep our draft picks, keep our prospect pool, keep it growing, just as much as we can through there to every avenue possible to add to this team, because we believe we have the bones of a good team.
Let me just add to that. So, obviously one of the reasons we're looking externally is we'll get new ideas, we'll hear new, so we're not necessarily going to do things exactly the same way. By definition, a new GM will have new ideas, but certain things are core to who we are a franchise. We're a cap team. We're going to spend to the cap, not to the bottom. We're focused on making the playoffs every single year and competing for the cup, not tanking for picks. We're going to keep our picks, grow the prospect pool, get younger. So those fundamental things you've heard us say over the last year remain true.
Joe, I have to ask, natural question. You guys mentioned the external candidates, but Joe, are you going to be candidate for this job for position? Is that something that you want, or is it something that you're not interested in?
Well, I think the focus right now, again, is with external candidates. It's the right way to do the process. Why wouldn't we do that? It's the best league in the world. We would be out looking for the best players, best coaches, the best managers. I think we need to do that, be transparent in that process, take a look at candidates, whether it be former GMs, whether it be up and coming AGMs, league personnel, player agents, international hockey and the like. There's a lot of good hockey people out there, and why wouldn't we do that? And that's one of the things we're going to do first. At the end of the day, when it comes down to deciding that, we'll see where this goes. But I have no doubt there's going to be some very good candidates out there, and at that point in time, it'll be sifting through that and who's really the best fit to mesh with their needs here in San Jose. And
I know that you guys don't have a timeline in mind, but would you see that even past this summer that this role is not resolved? Is that a possibility, or is it kind of a hope to have it resolved by the summer?
I would hope that the role is filled before the hockey season starts next year, but not necessarily, for example, before the draft.
I feel like in other cities, Blair recall the internal. So why?
Fresh perspective. Learn from, we've all been doing this for a long time, and we're doing it in a very successful way, but it's good to learn from how others have done it as well. So if that external process tells us we've got the right internal, we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
Jonathan, that's been such an integral part of the style of hockey for the Sharks and the Sharks culture and organization. As you're looking forward, are you looking for some changes to that style of hockey, of that culture? What's the criteria for this concept?
So quite honestly, this is a late breaking thing. So to say we have a hard list of criteria written down and I can cite them all would be exaggerating at this point. Joe and I are going to meet this afternoon, put together the outline of the kind of person we're looking for, probably bat around even some original ideas. The culture of San Jose as a destination, as a family environment, that is highly unlikely to change as part of that. The culture of winning first, but winning in the right way, that is unlikely to change. As I said in my opening remarks, Doug's fingerprints are all over this thing and they're unlikely to disappear. But as candidates come through, they're likely to have ideas that we haven't thought of before. And that's what we want to be open to think of new things as well. So more as time goes on, basically.
And would Doug play any part of that?
At this time, probably not. Doug's taken, the reason he's stepping down is focus on health. And so it's not to say we might not call him up and consult him on something, but the primary core team is Hasso, Joe, and myself.
Doug was very heavy, building the back forward, defense and so on. Is that something that could change?
Certainly could possibly change, but that's to be determined as we go through the process.
Don't you, regardless of the general manager, you're staying with the organization. You're staying.
yeah, I
Yes.
definitely would like to. So that's
I'll answer on your behalf if you like.
Okay. Yeah, 32 years, and I'd like to think,
Yes.
okay. Institutional knowledge and just being here, I just hope I can help, in different ways here. So I've been in a variety of roles here and here to help.
So let's be clear, Curtis, in case the question is, looking externally is not a lack of faith in Joe by any stretch of the imagination. We have tons of faith in Joe. It is a, okay.
But what does this mean for other parts of the front office, scouting staff, general manager, going to be allowed to put his stamp on things as far as that part?
Yeah, I think that the general manager will have a lot of say in different things. Having said that, I like to think that there's a lot of good foundation here, in staff and players and policies and protocols and things like that. But, GM will come in and will tweak that works for them. And that's all part of it. That's part of hockey, moving forward. But again, I'd like to think, I think as part of the process, it'll probably be discussed what's working and what needs to be tweaked. And that'll be, at the end of the day, the general manager is the general manager. They have their ability to do what they need to do for the club. But having said it, the decision there, I think, will be based upon, aligning with the core philosophies of the organization.
So it doesn't sound like the person you look for, someone who will come in and want to.
If we come to the conclusion that the right person for our franchise ends up doing an overhaul, that's the decision we'll take. It's not the expectation we start with, but if that is what happens to the process, we'll learn that through the process.
What's been your evaluation of coaching staff here?
We're all, the season's not over. All players, all staff members, get reviewed every year. I get reviewed every year, and you go in and with the coaching staff this year. And again, it's still in progress. We've been very competitive. I do want to mention, like the last game, it was really, really interesting. At the point that we're in on the outside, kind of looking in the playoffs, that this team cares enough to kind of be in a one-to-one game. You look tactically, it was a chess match, and there wasn't any selfish hockey in there. There was a committed team out there trying to win a hockey game, and doing it in probably the quietest, most boring way possible in their way, but it's from a team commitment. They don't go off and do their own things, and so yes, the coaches have got the players to play in that way this year, and I think that's been one of our positives this year, that we've been very competitive. And as I've said before, again, this is my view, is that we've been a very competitive team. We've lacked sometimes just with some depth of talent. We some secondary scoring and some different things that you keep working on through the draft and trades and free agencies as you can, do things to address that. And we've been, trying to do that and making strides with it, but sometimes it takes a little while here.
You mentioned the internal process of the the coaching staff and the players and so on. You have sort of a timeline by when to be here.
Well, I think, it's an interesting situation this year, having, knowing that we're interviewing for a general manager. So we're going to talk internally about that. The first thing we're going to do is we will have reviews. Nothing's really going to change in that way. We'll go through and we'll talk about player seasons, what we're going to do, what our options are. We'll talk about staff members. We'll say, how have they done? And where we're going to go from there, just kind of like we do every year. And then at that point in time, we'll know where everything sits with how we see it. And then we'll decide, is that something that we're going to address, or we're going to, wait for the general manager's opinion on that. There's some things that'll be pretty obvious and clear, and there'll be other things that we'll say, hey, maybe we're gonna wait for the general manager's perspective on that and move forward with. So we're gonna do a lot of the legwork, like everything else. We're gonna move forward with that, with free agency, setting up for that, setting up for the draft, setting up for everything else, like we would. And then at that point in time, when we get to that point with the general manager, they'll obviously be a part of that process.
Just to be clear, Joe is the general manager, and he's not in a caretaker mode or something. And so we're moving forward, making decisions, et cetera. He may choose to wait on some of those, but he's free to make the decisions and go.
Do I take that as the decision as for the coaching staff, that it could be further until the candidates are there?
Well, there's nothing set. Like, it's like everybody else. There's just a review every year, like
Right.
there is of every player and every staff member, and that's really all we put into place.
I asked Logan about this earlier, and I put the caveat that it was pay grade, it's closer to yours.
Okay.
It's obviously it's just happening that you had much time to think maybe before this about what the organization might want to do. someday, whether it's, there's not, you look around the arena, there's not a lot of stuff in that young franchise, et cetera, but just,
We will certainly do something to honor Doug's legacy at the appropriate time. We'd want him to be able to participate in that in person, so that won't be in the next couple of weeks. Presumably that'll happen at some point next season. And I mean, to say we have that planned would be an exaggeration, but to say we all have ideas and things we'd like to do, yes, it's been discussed. He always didn't want it himself, but it will go through.
Under the impression, at least to me, seemed to be that Doug sort of set the philosophy of the team, and he would take it to Hasso would be, and that's just, correct me if I'm wrong on that, but now though, this, I guess, philosophy, not wanting to step back with that sort of thing. I just think that number of Hasso directed at you guys, and describe, I guess that maybe Hasso's role in part of the direction.
Maybe I'll answer that, and Joe, feel free to add some information as well. So Hasso is generally not that visible to you guys, but you should not interpret that as he's not heavily involved. Also watches as much hockey, both Sharks and non-hockey, as anybody I know, including non-American and Canadian-based hockey as well. And he's got opinions on styles and people and et cetera like that. So to assume that he hasn't made suggestions over the years and gotten heavily involved would be inaccurate. And so he continues to make suggestions, et cetera. And I would say Doug, given his long tenure, yes, did lead it more dramatically. And now it's more of a three-way kind of conversation. Anything else you'd add?
No, it's Hassel's deeply competitive, and
sure.
and he's had a success, through SAP and in his life by mining talent, by getting the best talent, the best executives and people. And so he's actually has an awful lot to add, as we're looking for advice and looking for somebody to bounce things off, as far as with players and with and what we're doing here. And so, he's heavily involved with that and very supportive.
Since we're speaking of hospital, one of the things we hear a lot from community is sort of a lack of involvement with his exposure and interaction with that. Is that something that's expected to stay the same? Is that something that can change? Where he is more visible?
I don't know that it would fundamentally change. Would he be more visible a bit over the coming months as this process happens? Likely, but he's in lots of different communities involved. So I see him a lot, maybe not every. He doesn't crave the visibility.
Second question, I know you mentioned this in the future about he looks to be back in the zone someday. Is Sharks one of the possibilities of that, or what is the?
Oh, sure. As I said in the opening remarks, when that makes sense and the time is right for us and him, happy to have a conversation about how he could help the franchise. Don't know exactly what that role would look like, but I'm sure we could craft something.
If you said it until maybe Sharks that comment as well.
To be determined.
next question is, sure that we talked about, why was this the right time? Why now? Why not? Why now? Why not? Why is this the right time?
I don't know about exactly why now. I think, maybe, he's looking at it that there's a little bit more time here. That this is going to take a little more time for him. I know he's making progress, and why he chose now. Could be we're about a month from the end of the season. It's time when generally things like this start to happen. So waiting another month, I guess we do have an advantage. Right now, we'll be kind of first in line here to take a look at the managerial marketplace and everything too. So I'm not sure exactly why now. And, he could have made a decision a few months ago. And, but I think like all of us, we were just waiting to see, how long this is going to be, if it was going to be a shorter or long-term thing, and ended up being maybe a little bit longer than we thought. And, he's made the decision now just to take the extra time.
How much sort of paying attention to Blackhawks just went through their search and people feel about like they interviewed a baseball guy. The Canucks sort of recrafted their front office and they hired 3 women. Just like you sort of been monitoring from afar what's going on in management's circles.
I mean, I'll answer for myself. Of course, loving the game of hockey, you pay attention to all that stuff. But we didn't think we were going through a GM search, so it wasn't like we were like taking notes as something to do that. But yes, it was an interesting process to see that. Maybe now that we know we are, we'll go back and re-examine some decisions that were made and not made and see how they may impact us. But I wasn't in learning mode then, if you will.
That's really awesome. You guys have candidates in mind. You mentioned you guys are going to talk shortly. It's set sort of
Pretty much right after this.
what you guys are looking for, that sort of thing. And so I guess when so first question, any candidates in mind? Second question is when will you guys sort of maybe firm up kind of the parameters, guidelines?
Well, I don't know about your phone, Joe, but mine's already started buzzing with people raising their hands. So there's no lack of people interested in the role. And for those of you that enjoy social media, there's already plenty of speculation out there as well. So I think everyone's already figured out our candidate list for us. We don't have to do the work. No, in all seriousness, we don't want to rush the process because I told you we're not. So we'll have an initial conversation, sketch out the general ideas of should we wait experienced GMs more than up and comers? How about people with no experience whatsoever? Obviously, that would require a different support structure than someone who's done this 2 or 3 times before. So I think we want to create profiles of the kind of person and weight how those would impact the organization, et cetera. Will we do that in one session? Probably not. That takes a couple of sessions. We want to get Hasso involved, et cetera. And then we'll sort of say, well, how do people fit in that? You don't really know exactly who's going to be available. Some people aren't available until maybe later in the season. Others might be available now. So, my suspicion is it'll be a couple of weeks before we have a general sense of who we're looking for. But I don't think we'll be naming names anytime soon. So anything to add?
Yeah, just getting back to we talk about structure all the time and talking about openness for different candidates and where they come from and backgrounds is we're open to everything and getting the best candidate, we don't know what field they're going to be heavy in, where they're going to be leveraged. They might be a strategist. They might be somebody leveraged in player acquisition. They might be somebody, their core competency is coaching and player development. And what, our plan with that is to work with them. If, very few people are where their greatest assets are across every span, but it'll be in a few of the areas. So if it's a strategist, maybe in cap and contract work, then you really need to, make sure that they have some really good support in the areas of player development, or if there's somebody in player acquisition, that they have a strategist. So it's really not just the person themselves, but the team and the vision that they, building a great leadership team.
Prior experience as general manager. How high is that?
It's not necessarily a requirement for the job. The person we are may have been a GM before, but may not have been. And maybe they're an AGM, maybe something else.
Direct reports internally.
You talked to most of them. I'll let you answer that.
Yeah, I think it really depends at the end and the team that they put together. And ultimately our reporting structure is Hasso's the owner and Jonathan's the president, and then the general manager will report up from there.